just put yourself out there. What's the worst that can happen? So you mess up, the sun will still rise tomorrow. You do it again the following week, right? But play with people. That would be my advice.
Hi, and welcome to ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Liebman, founder and first baseman. Great interview this week. Johnny Griparic, Swedish bass player, played with Slash and Ritchie Kotzen and Richie Sambora and Don Felder and Carole King and a bunch of others. Awesome interview. You're going to hear a lot of great stuff. Very inspiring stories as well. How about you? If you've ever wanted to learn bass, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community, people of all ages, and you know what they're doing? They're learning bass, they're having the time of their life, and they're playing music that they love. Come join them. Experience that incredible transformation for yourself. Remember, you're never too old to groove. So let's play bass. Johnny Griparic, or Johnny G, is an accomplished Swedish-born bassist, moved to LA in 1990, and that's where he joined local blues great B.B. Chung King's ensemble and became a member of the legendary Screaming Cocktail Hour at the world-famous Baked Potato Jazz Club. Love that place. During that time, Johnny became friends with guitar icon Slash, of Guns N' Roses fame, of course, which led to the landing the bass chair in Slash's Snake Pit band. Since then, Johnny's gone on to work in all kinds of situations with renowned artists like Carole King, Richie Sambora, Ace Frehley, Don Felder, before eventually joining Richie Kotzen's band, where he spent the next few years touring the world and recording several albums, including the critically acclaimed Live in Sao Paulo album. In 2024, Johnny rejoined Slash to record the award-winning Orgy of the Damned blues album, which was followed by the Slash Serpent Tour in the summer of 2024. Here's my interview with Johnny G. Hello, Johnny.
Hello, John.
Welcome to For Bass Players Only. It's so great to see you. I've really been looking forward to talking with you. I'm so glad.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've done a lot of really cool stuff. You've played with a lot of really cool people. You're in Sweden right now.
I am in Sweden.
You were born and raised in Sweden, right?
I was.
Okay. So tell me about, let's start from the beginning. Go back to those early days. Tell me about your initial exposure to music. Growing up in a house, did you come from a musical family? Your parents, were they musicians? Did you have brothers and sisters with records playing all the, how did you first get exposed to music, and what led you to become a bass player?
Well, nothing spectacular. I don't come from a musical family. It's the only one interested in music. As a kid, I started taking guitar lessons when I was 5. At that point, it was either Kiss or Elvis. That's all I listened to.
Okay.
And here in Europe, growing up, it was soccer. It was all of it. It was music, and music never was a real option for me, I felt.
Excuse me, did you say soccer just for my benefit when you really wanted to say football?
No, because I've lived in the States most of my life, so soccer comes naturally.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, fast forward to my teens, starting, hanging out with girls. And one of my girlfriends had a friend who was a guitar player, had a band, needed a bass player. And basically, hey, get yourself a bass, you'll be in the band. The next day, I sold my motocross bike and bought a bass, and no turning back. So,
what kind of bass was it?
It was a Mason P bass copy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good enough to get the job done.
It was a beast to play.
So
but it didn't matter because I didn't even know how to tune it. I was just it was tuned when I bought it. So what else do I need to do?
Exactly. Well, so how did you learn to play?
Just playing with friends. And, and a neighbor had a friend who was playing bass, and, hey, could you teach me something? And then hey, you might need to tune the bass. What do you mean? Like I said, it was tuned when I bought it. No, no, no. This is how it works. You got to tune with the guitars or the piano or the keyboards. And so no lessons, just, friends and acquaintances and the records, just slowing down the records, putting coins on the turntable to slow it down.
Well, I imagine by the time you got into your teens, your musical palette expanded a bit
Quite
beyond
a bit.
Elvis and Kiss.
It did.
What
It
were you
did.
listening to, and what were you guys playing in the band?
Well, I mean, I came of age in the '80s, so it was a lot of heavy metal, but more European, more Maiden, Thin Lizzy, a lot of Thin Lizzy, Gary Moore, which then eventually took me into the blues because he was always talking about the blues. Gary Moore was. So
Yeah.
then I started listening to blues, and I was like, oh my God, where has this been my whole life? Which wasn't very popular in my heavy metal band because all of a sudden I want to start doing blues tunes.
You mean like John Mayall or
Yeah,
early-
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Anything. I mean, first it was the good segue was Hendrix. It was rock enough, but it was blues. And then further down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So
right.
that's
Well, how did all that eventually morph into a career for you?
well. I moved. This was still in Sweden. I had a bass player friend who was one of these wonderkind people that we all hate that can do anything and everything at any time. And he had an idea that we should move to the States, to LA. And so I said, okay, let's do it.
You
I bought a ticket.
were how
I
old
was
at the time?
just 20.
Okay.
So I bought a ticket and he did not. And I was like, okay, then I'm just going to go on my own.
Well, excuse me, what about your parents, your family? They were cool with it?
My mom, my dad died when I was young. She was cool. She was like, you can always come home. Just go. And so I went, and I saw a lot of musicians on Hollywood Boulevard because I didn't know what to do. I just went.
You didn't go there to go to school. You just
No,
went.
no. I just went, and then I saw people playing. I mean, walking around with guitars and go, where's everybody going? Oh, we're going to this music school.
Am I?
Oh, yeah, am I correct? And a lot of Swedes and go, yeah, just apply. Sweden was super generous with student loans.
Okay.
And so
I'm trying to think. 80s, early 80s, would that have been
90.
Oh, 90s. Okay, so that was beyond Jeff Berlin and Tim Bogert and maybe Bob
Tim
Magnuson.
Bogert was there.
How about
Tim
Bob
Bogert.
Magnuson?
He was there.
Dale Titus, Steve Bailey,
Yep.
that generation?
Yep. All of them.
Got it.
So this was 90.
Okay.
Yeah. They were all there.
Okay. I bet that was a real eye opener for you.
Yeah. I mean, I loved MI. I mean, a lot of people, talk crap about it, but it was as good as you wanted to make it. If you wanted anything you wanted to learn was there for you to learn, but they weren't going to force you to learn it. It's up to you.
Yeah. I wanted
All
to
the
go
tools.
to that school. I wanted to go really badly to that school around 1983.
Okay.
And my dad said, well, if that's the school, then go there, but do yourself a favor, see if there are other schools that are just as good or maybe even better, which was a good idea. So I looked at 7 schools.
Okay. And where did you go?
I ended up going to University of Miami.
Okay.
Which was a great choice for me. I looked at Berkeley in Boston, and then around the corner, New England Conservatory. And on my way home back to Michigan, I stopped at Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York.
Okay.
I looked at Indiana University. And then I went out and I checked out, it was BIT at the time, Base Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
And it was cool hanging with Bob Magnuson and talking with, I don't know, with Carl Schroeder. He was probably there when.
Oh, he was there when I was on a
and
whole
then,
different level. Like, I mean, now looking back, like Bob and Carl and all these people I would have never met if I didn't go to that school. And it wasn't really my type of music, but I feel so fortunate to have studied, the real book like and learn from these guys.
Yeah.
It's not what I do, but it's always nice to learn, you know.
Yeah, that's great. I checked out North Texas State University, which is now called University of North Texas. And
Okay.
I got to Miami. I said, "Whoa, this is insane!" And I definitely made the right choice. So I guess obviously you met a lot of people at
Yeah.
MI, and so you started getting called and sent for various gigs and whatever.
Yeah, at that time there was so much work in Los Angeles. It was amazing. I mean, there were already, as soon as you put yourself out there, if you could play at all, you were offered more gigs than there were days in the week.
I was there during that time, actually,
Yeah.
91,
Right.
92.
And it was amazing. I mean, I didn't want to play because I wanted to go see all these other shows.
Did you go to where did I used to go? Lick Cafe and
Yeah.
see Brandon Fields and Tim Landers and Joey Heredia and
And Marco. Yeah.
Marco. Well, Marco Mendoza.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we met at all those jam sessions that used to happen there. That's how I knew
Yeah.
Marco. Yeah, good. You're bringing back some very happy memories.
Yeah, I mean, all up Ventura Boulevard for the people that know any, Los Angeles is one of the main streets in the valley, so to speak. I
Yes.
mean, it was one place after another, starting with the baked potato right where
Yeah.
Ventura starts, and then it was one after the other.
And Jerry's famous deli. I frequented
Correct.
many times.
Right across from like La Ville.
Aveli, yeah. Who did I see there? A guy used to play with Tower of Power, guitar player. I
Oh,
forgot.
Bruce Conti?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bruce. I forgot you. A place up in Chatsworth. There was a band called Mouse and the Toy Band.
Don't know them.
Mouse was the drummer.
Okay.
And yeah, I used to go there. Oh, and then there was a place, maybe you know about this. It was called the Captain's Cabin.
Of course.
Yeah, and I was there. We probably were in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, it was kitty corner to the FM station.
Okay,
You
I don't
remember, it was one of
remember
those heavy metal hangouts.
that.
And
Okay,
Captain's Cabin was more like a bluesy, cool hang.
well, there were. I used to go 2 nights a week. One night was like rock, and the other night was
Okay.
pure jazz. And there's a guy
Okay.
named Andy Suzuki. Do you remember that name?
No.
Sax player, really great player. And Larry Maradian was a bass player, and I don't even remember a bunch of.
This is way above my pay grade, man. I'm
Okay.
a blues rocker.
Okay. Well, why don't you keep talking? Because I keep talking.
No. Keep. I mean, I'm just kidding. I used to go see all these. I don't know those particular guys, but yeah, I used to go see it all.
Yeah, it was great because the networking and, like you said, so many gigs. And I actually got a tour of Japan and Korea from going to the Captain's Cabin.
Okay.
Friend Larry woke me up and the phone rang. I said, yes. He says, John, it's Larry. Hi, Larry. First thing he says is, do you have a passport? I said, oh, I like when it starts like that.
Yeah.
Where am I going, Larry? He says, Japan and Korea. So that was an awesome experience.
Who was that with?
That was with a choral group out of Los Angeles called the Roger Wagner Chorale. I
Okay.
guess was a legendary conductor. He couldn't go Roger Wagner because he was old and he was not in good health. So his daughter conducted. I think her name was Janine. So it was 20 singers, a piano player, and me on upright bass, all over Japan.
Oh, that's fantastic.
We had a few days off. We were supposed to go to Taiwan for 3 days, but for some reason that part got canceled. So some people went to Disneyland, which I thought would be interesting, but I climbed Mount Fuji, which I thought was more of a once in a lifetime.
Yeah, I think so.
A handful of us, and
Good choice.
I went all the way to the top. I knew there was one other guy that went all the way to the top with me. His name was Dwight, but just a handful of us went, but we knew from the beginning we are going to the top. And we did. So, and I went to the Blue Note in Osaka and also in Tokyo. So, Gerald Albright, sax player.
Yeah.
So, anyway, back to you. What? Okay, there are a bunch of people that Richie Kotzen and Slash and all the others that I mentioned earlier in the.
Yeah.
Tell me, is there a sequence of events? How did that all come about?
So, yeah, I started getting more and more work. Now I'm going to the point where it all changed, which was the harmonica player for Eurythmics, Jimmy Z. I don't know if you remember him.
I remember the
He,
band.
yeah, he was a great harmonica player. He was putting together a band, and he asked me to join. And I remember because I used to love his playing when I was a kid here in Sweden. So it's like, oh, yeah, I'm in. So that's where I met BB Chung King. I met Teddy Andreadis, that was in Carole King's band and Guns N' Roses and Alice Cooper, all these bands. So that was the first time I was like, okay, now I'm playing with guys that are on a different level. And so we got along so great. Teddy, BB Chung King, or Alan, as his name was, bless his soul, and me got along really well. So I was like, we should put together a band, which became the Screaming Cocktail Hour. And so we had a residency at the jazz club Baked Potato.
Know it well.
Yeah. Every Tuesday night for like 3 years.
Wow.
And all these rockers were coming in because we were playing blues and blues rock, some R&B, but mostly blues and blues rock, like playing it hard. So that was my introduction to most of these guys. Slash came in. He needed a band to go to Hungary with him for a one-off, and basically hired that band to back him up. Augmented with a few guys, but that was it. So we just flew, played a festival for 60, 70,000 people doing cover tunes, which, full circle last year, we recorded some of those songs with Slash's Blues Ball. So being a Slash's band obviously opened up a lot of doors in the rock world for me. And so that's how it got started. And that's one thing led to another.
All right, there's one name that stands out though, because you talk about Slash and BB Chung King and Ace Frehley, Richie Sambora,
Yeah.
Richie Kotzen, Carole King. It's like that doesn't fit with that list of what's up.
Well, yeah, it's Carole King. That's with modification. She was part of a band that was called the Possibilities.
Okay.
And we did a few gigs. So that's Carole King.
I mean, were you playing Fire and Rain and you've got a friend and
It was up to her.
well,
If she was in the mood, we did.
okay.
If she wasn't, we'd be doing the Who songs.
Wow.
And it was the best. She's the kindest, best person to be around. She makes you want to play better. She makes you want to be better. You leave a rehearsal with Carole and your whole spirit's uplifted and you're like on a different energy level.
That's so great to hear.
Yeah, she's more than what you would want her to be.
So what's keeping you busy these days?
All kinds of stuff. A lot of blues stuff. I was with Walter Trout for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
And I'm no longer with him, because I'm mostly in Europe these days, and his touring schedule is so busy. And then last year when I was doing the Slash tour, it kind of clashed, and it was, it was a natural end of that relationship.
Slash clash.
Yeah, no animosity. It was just he had
No,
to do
I
what
was
he had
just
to do.
I was just trying to be funny. I said a slash clash.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
So
okay.
yeah, so I did that. I do a lot of. Now that I'm in Sweden, I try to bring over American artists and tour with them here. I try to get, because we all have to pivot. I can't just be a player anymore. It's not that easy. And I don't want to really tour that much, not like I have been for 30 years. So it's pivoting for sure. Like I want to be in charge of booking and deciding who I'm playing with and stuff. But with that said, knock on wood, I work as much as I want to work, and a lot of stuff I turn down because for various reasons. But a lot of blues gigs, rock gigs. I'm going out now with a dear old friend of mine. It's the movie Fargo. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Okay. There's an actor in there, a Swedish actor. He was also the Russian in Armageddon. And, he's a famous actor over here in Sweden.
What's
But
his
he
name?
also does music. Peter Stormare.
Okay.
So we're starting a month-long tour with him on day after tomorrow.
Cool.
Then right after that, I fly to Amsterdam to start a tour with Curtis Salgado, which is a fantastic blues singer from the U.S. So, yeah, it's busy.
That's great that you're still doing it and in a position to do what you want. You're having fun. Awesome.
Yeah.
Tell me about your bass gear. Do you have a particular one or two basses that you gravitate to the most, and strings, amps, effects, etc.?
Yes. Basses, my main bass, and it's been for 30 plus years, is a Fender Jazz 72. It's with a really thin nut. It's just those years. It was only then that they made them that thin or that narrow. So that bass is beat to death. There's pictures all over the internet if you look for it. So that's my main bass. I don't really tour with it that much because, it's been lost once and I got it back and I don't want to go through that again. So as far as touring gear, I deal with Sandbergs. I use their basses.
Oh, yeah.
Which are fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my touring basses.
What kind of strings do you play on?
Rotor Sounds.
Ah.
Yeah. Best strings for me. It's a little higher tension because I play so hard. So it doesn't give as much. When I play like medium tension, I tend pulling them off the bridge. Because I learned to play bass without an amp, so you had to really dig in.
Yes. Wow.
Which is not great for the tone, but that's how I play. So yeah, Rotor Sounds, and depending on gigs, sometimes flats, sometimes the 66 is usually.
Yeah.
And amps,
Yeah.
EBS.
EBS.
All of the different versions from Sweden.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't speak more highly about the equipment and the company.
What do you
so accommodating. I spoke to them today because I'm doing a TV show Friday. I need an amp sent up to way up north. We're on it. We'll get one, be one waiting for you. And same with effects. They're the best effects. Depending on what gig, it's either the 802, their flagship big that I used with Slash because I needed a lot of volume.
Yeah.
On this tour, I used their new Magni Combo 115 because it's mostly boom, boom, boom in theaters. So I don't need to be loud on stage. So they cover the spectrum for me. And it's the only amp company for me that's done that. Because usually in the past, one thing is good for, it's good for this, but when I do this, they don't really have anything. That's not the case with EBS.
Not the case with EBS. Yeah, great people too. Ralph, I like very
Ralph. He actually just now sent me a message. Let me see what it says. Yeah, something about the amp for Friday.
He didn't say watch out for that John Liebman guy.
No.
Hey, so if I understand your story here, you didn't really study bass formally until you got to MI, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my studying is, I was lucky that I got to tour and play a lot early on. That was my school. So had I not, I'd probably be a better bass player. But since I got to tour, you learn other skills. you know, you're out with a star and he calls and says, hey, we're going to the bar. If you say, you know what, I'm going to stay in the hotel room and practice my modes, he probably ain't going to call you for the next tour.
This guy's not fun to hang around with.
Yeah. So,
Well,
you know.
that's a great segue, because what I wanted to ask you, For Bass Players Only is a bass instruction site. And I've got people right now from all 50 states and from, I don't know, 50, 60 some countries around the world coming to For Bass Players Only every day to learn bass.
Nice.
And, most of them, these are people of all ages. I don't know that I have anybody under 40, but you know, most of them are over 40, and most of those are older than over 40.
Yeah, but there's work for us, man.
Well, some of them may want to work. They may want to play in their church or you know, a blues bar or club dates or something like that, or just parties. But a lot of them just have always wanted to do this, and they just never got very far with it. So that's what I help them do. People in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I've got students in their 80s, men and
That's beautiful.
and
That's beautiful.
they're not trying to make a career out of it. You know, they want to play some blues shuffles or some classic rock riffs with their friends. And some of them are happy just to stay in a room at home by themselves and just figure it out and practice. So, given your interesting and varied background, I wanted to ask you, what advice could you impart to somebody like I'm describing, somebody like that who wants to learn bass? And a lot of times when you get into your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, sometimes things like arthritis or tendonitis or bursitis or recovering from surgery, you know, there's plenty of that too. So keeping all that in mind, whether it's about goals or what they should be striving to learn or how they should be spending their time or what they, you know, jump in anywhere. What can you, how could you advise these people?
That's a rough one. I mean, the immediate thing that I think of is find somebody to play with. You know, bass is a tough instrument to sit and practice by yourself. You know, again, going back to doom, boom, doom, you know, by yourself, it's not that fun until years and years later when you have, you know, note length and stuff like that matters. But playing with a guitar player, all of a sudden it sounds like music. So immediately start playing music. That would be my thing. You know, go to blues bars, go to blues jams, learn two ways of playing a shuffle. You know, a slow blues, and just put yourself out there. What's the worst that can happen? So you mess up, the sun will still rise tomorrow. You do it again the following week, right? But play with people. That would be my advice. That's what I always did. You know, like I said earlier, I wish I'd practiced more. I'd be a lot better at playing, but I have other skills, you know, that afford me to work. And, you know, I've had a career now for over 30 years. So,
good.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my thing. Find a neighbor, find a friend, go to a jam and find somebody that's kind of on your level. Yeah. You know, don't ask, you know, Eric Clapton to jam with you. It's not going to happen. Yeah. You know, find somebody on your level and learn together. You know, learn songs. That's the thing. You know, what are these bass players doing? Why does this work? Simple things. You know, learning Jocko at a blues jam, you're not going to get stay for a second song.
Good point. You mentioned some things that you have coming up, and you mentioned a lot of stuff that you've got going on right now. What about beyond that? The future, is there either something else that's percolating right now, something you're working on, or is there something else that you've always wanted to do, but you've just not gotten around to yet? What about the future?
Yeah, there's a few things percolating. They're too early to talk about, but hopefully, you know, I mean, I have work till booked through 26. So as far as that, I'm okay playing wise. But you know, for me, I want to sing more. That's my thing. So that's what I'm focusing mostly on now. and it's again back to bars and small clubs and you know and fronting. That's what I'm been working on.
All right. Well, I
Yeah.
think you just opened it up for a follow-up interview because I want to hear more about that, and you can tell me
Yeah.
what.
I mean, it's yeah, because I've always been over here in the back.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to step up front,
There you go.
And I'm not great, and I'm probably never going to be great, but I'll do it as best as I can and have fun doing it.
Yeah. Well, you got Paul McCartney, you got Sting, and you got Peter Cetera, and other
There you go.
singing bass players.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if I'll reach there, but can always
No,
try.
I'm just talking about bass players who
Yeah.
singers.
And it's tough. I mean,
Eddie Lee.
yeah, to sit and play the simplest bass line,
Yeah.
disconnect from the singing. It's not like playing and strumming a guitar. It's completely different.
I know. I never really liked. I remember reading an interview with what's his name, Mike Mills from REM,
Uh huh.
and he said, if I'm remembering what I read correctly, it was many years ago. He said, I just put the bass part in the back of my mind and focus
Yeah.
on singing. And I thought, I wouldn't want to do that. I don't want to put the bass in the back of my mind. I'm a bass player, so if I'm going to sing also, you can't really put the singing in the back of your mind. I've done some of that. I never really enjoyed it that much because
Okay.
I wished I did because I don't know if I could have possibly worked any more than I did because I was a maniac during those floors. But it would have made me more even more marketable if I was a
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing. Learn to sing some background vocals. You don't have to be Sting or Paul McCartney, like you said. But being able to sing, gives you another set of tools when you look for work.
Oh well, for me,
Yeah.
not going to happen for me. I don't think. Well, who knows, maybe.
You never know.
You never know. Hey, I have one last question for you, Johnny.
Yeah.
If you could imagine, what would you be if you were not a bass player? Something outside of music.
That I've always wanted, or what I would want to do now.
Oh, what do you think would have happened, or either one?
What would have happened, or I mean, because I'm sober, almost 8 years now, I'm heavily involved in the sober community. I sponsor people. I guide people as best I can and stuff. So that's an arena where if I didn't play music, I would probably, get some credits and work in that field.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
There, I've gotten that answer before from other people that they do a lot of work, and I just think that people that need help are very fortunate that there are people like you that want to help them.
Well, because when I needed it, it was people like me, I guess, or I would have never made it. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I had run that part of me into the ground. Like I wasn't getting any calls anymore. I was too unreliable. I was and so that help I will never forget. And the only way I will always stay grateful is to pass it on, because it will remind me where I would have been if I didn't have the help. So
I can only imagine that. It just seems to me that must have taken a lot of strength on your part and maybe a lot of courage and determination to do that. And I admire you for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear, like I said, a follow-up interview and to
anytime, my friend,
and hear more about what you're doing because you have done a lot, you are doing a lot, and I want to hear past tense about what's now future tense. So the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. I'm so glad to have gotten to know you a little bit, and thanks
Likewise.
so much for spending this time. This is awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. Safe travels, and
thank you very much.
Let's play bass.
Absolutely. All day, every day.
All right, Johnny. Thanks so much for being on my show. Much appreciated. I got to get over to Sweden one of these days because
you should. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got friends over here.
You must know Bjorn England, right?
Of course I do.
Isn't Jonas Hellborg from Sweden?
He is.
Yes, and I'm sure I know a handful of others. Well, good group of people. The good stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you should come over here in May. I think EBS is having a bass get together.
Okay, I like bass get-togethers. Is it one of those
last year
happening like this, or is it?
It's just great people hanging out. Last year Bjorn and Jonas were there. So
awesome.
I went with Bjorn. That's why.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Thanks again. You take care, and I hope
you.
to meet you in person, and hope to get to see you soon and often.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Take care. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Johnny G, what a great story, coming over from Sweden to LA without knowing anybody, without having a clue. And what he was able to make of that was nothing short of remarkable. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you've ever wanted to learn bass, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community, people of all ages, and they are learning bass. They're having the time of their life playing music that they love. Come join them and experience that incredible transformation for yourself. You're never too old to groove. I will see you right back here next week, same time, same place, with another bass player interview right here on ForBassPlayersOnly.com. In the meantime, I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.